Joe Flowers here for Brothers of Bushcraft. Today we're going to go over big knife use. Just for argument's sake, you see this dividing line here between these small machetes and big knives? Well, we're going to throw it out there and just kind of lump them all together. Okay? You make your own choice whether it's a machete or a big knife. Cutlery taxonomy isn't really a big issue right now. We're going over techniques. Alright, so why would you use a big knife? This one's the Tops Power Eagle. Well, it kind of depends. Depending on what you do when you camp. If you want to have a huge fire, of course, you want to bring a big axe with you and then chop up stuff. Maybe if you're more of a gatherer, you might find a big knife useful. Maybe a combination of a big knife and a good-sized folder might be exactly what you need for all your whittling. There's a whole plethora of different uses out there. We'll go over some of them right now. All right, some of the big knife examples I got here. Tops Power Eagle. This is about a 14-inch machete, a small 12-inch, or I think a 10-inch machete. Oh, it's so cute, so I had to put it in here. Look at how small it is. A K-bar cutlass, or actually it might be the kukri. I don't know, but it's by K-bar. You can see the upswept tip, point going forward. Who cares? All right, Condor Kumunga, and a Becker BK9. Alright, all of these have not been modified except for the K-bar. It had a little flange up here just for my own personal preferences. I put a little divot on one side so I could whack around with it. Anyway, big knife techniques. I'm not going to get into that thing where we just sit here and talk about stuff rather than doing it. Alright, of course you got a baton. You can baton through all sorts of stuff. Splitting wood, that's all over YouTube, so who cares. We're going to go ahead and split up this piece of wood. Just pick one of these guys here. Take big wood, process it into smaller pieces. Different ways you can chop. Just make sure you don't go into your side or your knee or your foot or your dog. It's Sheila back there. Instead of wasting all your energy just chopping all the time, you can chop halfway and then bust through it with your knee or your foot too. Don't be so caught up that you have to chop all the way through it just because you got a big knife. Crocodile Dundee's awesome. But it's all about the energy managing. I got a lot of energy. I'm hyperactive, which is why I'm not going to sit here and talk about stuff. We're just going to do it. Just sit here. Bust. Cool. Maybe you want to process this into something smaller. Why not? We got some heartwood in here. This is cherry, by the way. Alright, buzz sticks with the big knife. Of course you can look on Bindle Stitch 1's video, very good video by the way, and you can see doing a fuzz stick this way. That's one way of doing it. You can also stick your knife really hard into a wood surface. Obviously you're not going to stick it into a stone surface, I hope. And very, very finely get these teeny tiny shavings here. The ways of holding a big knife in your hand are about as limitless as your mind is. There are a whole bunch of different ways to hold this big knife, not just by the handle. You can do like the Guitar Hero way, and hold it flat in your hand in the palm like this, pulling upwards to take pieces off. You can do the draw stick method or the draw knife method. Maybe you want a long piece of cordage for something. Cutting this way, the way that these things are growing, like in the fat wood we talked about earlier, it's a great way to knock all these branches off. It's harder to go the opposite way. Do that with an axe too, of course. Maybe you need a long piece for cordage, or you're utilizing it to make some tinder. Long piece for cordage. Take two. Just like that. Yay. Alright, you can see I'm putting it in my armpit here. It's not a problem as long as you don't put it in blade first. If you put it in with the spine going into your armpit just like this, there's really no way it can cut you. You can do that with knives too. Don't do it this way. I think there's an artery in there. You need all that blood for important bushcraft skills like living. Different ways of cutting, of course. You can hold it over your head, chunk it out just like that. You can make a pointy thing just by doing small pieces. You might want to flip it over put the handle, not the blade, in your armpit, do something along this line, and just work the stick. Like I said, as limitless as your mind is. So you make up some new handholds that you like, get comfortable with them, find out what works best for you and which way you can put the torque on the blade, and how to make the tool work for you. You can choke up on the point just like that, carving fine stuff, or just, you know, whittling a hole, making sure you don't do that number or that number or that number, cutting on top of you, making sure your foot, hand, appendages out of the way. All sorts of different things that you can do. Just think about it. Guys, you want something that'll actually catch a spark. All right, we got a little pile right there. It's not exactly a fuzz stick, dog. Not exactly a fuzz stick. You can get a small pile of wood to shoot your fire steel into. If you get fat wood here, you can do this the same way. Very, very fine little shavings. Tiny, tiny shavings. You can really, really work how far you want to go with this. And make sure that you're turning each piece. You don't just want to sit there and keep going on the same plane, which works, of course. But if you use these facets, all right, so I created the corner right there and the corner right there, you can shave on those sides too. And the same thing goes for your fuzz sticks as well. Just keep hitting those facets. Very light too, as long as your tool is sharp, you can get some real light, pretty stuff. Alright, so I put a piece of wood on here kind of to direct the spark a little bit better, raising it up above it. I don't really have any fat wood in here, just to get over that fat wood tunnel vision of always having to look for it when you're doing a spark. You can use the back of any blade for a fire steel striker on big knives. Doing it this method will yield a lot of sparks, but it will chew up your mesh metal like a rabid beaver, so be careful. Some work better than others just because they do or don't have the coating, but you can pretty much get through the coating this way. Remember, it will ding up your mesh metal rod though, so make sure you have more than one. Maybe you were smart ahead of time and actually brought a real striker, or use the back of your Swiss Army knife saw to do it. Here's a scenario that could happen. You've got a bunch of Cub Scouts all around you. They're waiting patiently with their s'mores. You're going to show them some awesome bushcraft skills, hopefully pass the flame of knowledge on to the future generations, all that jazz. You have some spark-based fire-making demonstrations set up. Man, you got some good sparks going. Hopefully you'll get this going on the first try. You do? Awesome. Oh wait, I didn't prepare my kindling bundle. You run around and grab some haphazard bundles, kind of snap them together with these broken ends like this. Try to put things together just like that, group them together, put it on the fire, it expands, and next thing you know, there's no fire. So meanwhile, all the Cub Scouts are sitting around you. Little Timmy, he has his s'mores. He's like, "What happened? You broke the fire." And before he can say anything, one of the dads goes and grabs one of the bottles of stove gasoline, throws it on the fire, whoosh, it ignites, makes a big fire. All the kids are like, "Yay!" They roast their s'mores. But what you didn't know is little Timmy became infatuated with the gasoline explosions. And later on in life, he becomes a convicted felon arsonist because of that moment when you didn't have your kindling ready. A big knife could have helped you in that moment. Well, the aforementioned scenario probably won't happen. The point is, these little parts here where the wood stays together on the bark is kind of annoying. It happens more during the summertime than in the winter because the wood's a little bit less brittle. You can take your big knife, chop off those portions, being careful not to add your digits to the kindling pile. Flip it over, grab the other side there if you see any more that are joined together. Chop them off too. You might have one straggler there that you'll have to break around and get going. Rip that one. You don't have to rip them all now, so it's not such a big deal. There, now your kindling pile is a little bit more compact over the flame, thereby eliminating Timmy from becoming someone who's going to set a conflagration later on in the future. Go big knife.